This is an MJA Inc. Investigations warning. This MJA podcast is rated E for explicit. Some details of a case and language used on this podcast might be upsetting to some of our listeners. Listeners' discretion is advised. And for those who are still with us, kick back and enjoy the show. When there is an ending, there was a beginning. Every victim has a picture to paint. Every true crime has its time and place. Please join our MJ podcast, the series Deep into the Woods, Missing Persons, Unsolved Crimes, and the Does. Welcome to our MJ podcast, the series, Children Who Never Made It Home. This is Episode 7, Part 8, 12 Missing Children. The NCIC reports that over 600,000 people go missing each year. There are many adults and children who are found quickly alive and well, but several thousands of them remain missing. They have vanished without a trace, leaving no witnesses or evidence behind to give investigators a direction to follow. One minute your child is playing in the yard, and the next moment your child is gone and nowhere to be found. It's a family's worst nightmare when a loved one goes missing. But it's a fact, when it's a child, the stakes are higher. As a nation, we have failed to protect our children with the crimes against children that are on the rise. But in many cases, it's the fault of the lawmakers, where judges have no choice but to hand down flimsy sentences to child predators. But you do have judges where they grant a convicted child killer an appeal bond who decides to run and kill along the way. If you follow the trends of crime, you will know that there are several repeat offenders because the sentences allow them to become a revolving door to harm our children again. This must stop, and as a nation, we need to pass harsher sentences for these child predators. Some of these cases won't have a lot of info about the case, but these types of cases need to be profiled and never forgotten. Please join us as we step back into time. Good evening. My name is Mark, and I will be your host for tonight's show. Joining me later will be our co-host, Olivia. We are coming to you from Hudson, Florida, located on the Gulf of Mexico. Case 1. It was on September 14, 2001 is when 14-year-old Jesse Flores, an Hispanic male, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Phoenix, Arizona. Case 2. It was on May 26, 1992 is when 13-year-old Brandy Lynn Myers, a white female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Phoenix, Arizona. Case 3. It was on April 30th, 1992 is when 16-year-old Ian Ashley Richardson, a white male, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Denver, Colorado. Case 4. It was on November 14, 2005 is when 6-year-old Erin Thompson, a black female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Aurora, Colorado. Case 5. It was on September 14, 1980 is when 10-year-old Darren Glass, a black male, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Atlanta, Georgia. Case 6. It was on June 6, 1985 is when 3-year-old Alicia Smiley, a black female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Atlanta, Georgia. Case 7. It was on August 10, 1957 is when 7-year-old William Earl Martin, a white male, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Brazil, Indiana. Case 8. It was on September 5, 1979 is when 13-year-old Melinda Karen Creech, a white female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Anderson, Indiana. Case 9. It was on February 3rd, 1973 is when 11-year-old Guy Howard Heckle, a white male, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Lynn County, Iowa. Case 10. It was on June 3rd, 2001 is when 15-year-old Erin K. Popsville, a white female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Case 11. It was on February 12, 1982 is when 6-year-old Kelly Holland Jr., a white male, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Larks Lane, Kentucky. Case 12. It was on October 26, 1989 is when 5-year-old Alexandria Christine Zelinsky, an Asian female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Radcliffe, Kentucky. Let's take a pause for the cause, and when we return, Olivia will be on the line, and we will profile 12 missing person cases of children who never made it home. Be back in a moment. Welcome, everyone. Due to conflicting schedules, Olivia will not be on the show tonight. Please catch her on the flip side on our next upcoming episode. Thank you. Good evening. There are times that we might profile a case more than once, and sometimes it's a mistake. We say sorry for any mistakes, but it's hard for MJA to keep track of every case we profile. Welcome to our MJ podcast, this series, Children Who Never Made It Home, Episode 7, Part 8, 12 Missing Children. During the years of our life, the stage is never empty. We here at MJA hope and pray you gain what you seek. Welcome to the state of Arizona. The Doe Network has 88 males and 60 females listed as being missing from the state of Arizona. Case 1. Welcome to Phoenix, Arizona. Missing male. It was on September 14, 2001 is when 14-year-old Jesse Flores, an Hispanic male, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Phoenix, Arizona. On that day, around 6 p.m., Flores was last seen at his family's home in the area of West Indian School Road in Phoenix, Arizona. The 14-year-old Flores was getting ready to walk to a nearby party, and since it was a school night, his mother told him to be home early. Jesse Flores agreed and told his family he loved them and that he would see them later. The 14-year-old Flores then began to walk to the party. This is the last time the family saw or spoke to 14-year-old Jesse Flores. After the 14-year-old Flores didn't come home that night and didn't show up to school the next morning, his mother reported him missing to police. The initial search was extensive. Family and friends mobilized to search the area for Flores. The police were aggressively questioning the kids in the 14-year-old Flores class. It was revealed that 14-year-old Jesse Flores never even made it to the party that night. It's my understanding that the 14-year-old Flores was only walking about 5 to 6 blocks to the party. What happened to Flores along his walk to the party? If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Phoenix Police Department at 602 262-6151. Case 2. Welcome to Phoenix, Arizona. Missing female. It was on May 26, 1992, is when 13-year-old Brandy Lynn Myers, a white female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Phoenix, Arizona. It was on that day as when the 13-year-old Myers was last seen on the street corner with a friend. Brandy Lynn Myers and a friend were going door to door trying to collect money for a school fundraiser. At around 8 p.m., the friend went inside the Smitty's grocery store and the 13-year-old Brandy Myers remained in the parking lot. When the friend returned outside, the 13-year-old Brandy Myers had disappeared and vanished without a trace. Police believe the 13-year-old Myers may have been killed by Brian Miller, who was charged with killing 2 other women. Then Miller lived in the same neighborhood as Brandy Myers. According to Brian Miller's wife, Brandy Myers and her friend had knocked on the door of their house on that day of her disappearance. Then Miller confessed to his wife to killing 13-year-old Brandy Myers and dismembering her body. However, due to a lack of evidence, he has not been prosecuted. Due to the circumstances involved, foul play is suspected in the disappearance of 13-year-old Brandy Myers. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Phoenix Police Department Missing Persons Detail at 602-262-6141. Welcome to the state of Colorado. The Doe Network has 66 males and 58 females listed as being missing from the state of Colorado. Case 3. Welcome to Denver, Colorado. It was on April 30th, 1992 is when 16-year-old Ian Ashley Richardson, a white male, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Denver, Colorado. It was on that day as when the 16-year-old Richardson was last seen in North Denver. John Taylor, who is a canvas and a convicted sex offender, was a neighbor of the 16-year-old Richardson when the 16-year-old disappeared. In 1991, the then 15-year-old Richardson told police that Taylor had sexually abused him during a camping trip in 1989 and again in 1990. Richardson claimed the sexual relationship with Taylor started when he was only 13 years old. Taylor was charged with child sex abuse and harboring a runaway, but the charges were dismissed after Richardson called Taylor's defense attorney and recanted his story. It was in 1992 the 16-year-old Richardson accused Taylor of circumcising him while he was passed out under the influence of alcohol. Ian Richardson told a counselor that Taylor had threatened to harm him and his family if he testified against him. Later that year, the 16-year-old Richardson punched Taylor in the face. The 16-year-old Richardson was charged with assault in juvenile court. The 16-year-old Richardson was never seen again after this last allegation. In 2002, a friend of Taylor's went to police and said Taylor told him that he had shot the 16-year-old Richardson to death and chemically cremated his body. Taylor admits to having a sexual relationship with Richardson but denies playing any part in his disappearance. Investigators say that they have little doubt that the 16-year-old Richardson met with foul play and that Taylor is currently the prime and only suspect. It's my strong opinion that the criminal justice system let this young victim and his family down. Recanting a statement is nothing new, and it's all part of the grooming process from a sexual abuser. It's a classic, and the justice system fell for it. Taylor should have been sitting in jail before he could inflict any more abusive pain, and look what happened to the 16-year-old Richardson. If you have any info concerning the disappearance of Ian Richardson, please call the Denver Police Department, Major Crimes Division, Cold Case Unit at 720-913-6050. Case 4. Welcome to Aurora, Colorado. Missing female. It was on November 14th, 2005 is when 6-year-old Erin Thompson, a black female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Aurora, Colorado. On that day, the 6-year-old Thompson was reported missing from her home by her father. Thompson's father stated that the 6-year-old left the home after an argument with her stepmother. It was just within days as when the 6-year-old Thompson's father and stepmother, Shiley Lowe, quit cooperating with investigators, during which time they retained a lawyer. The remaining children in the home were placed in foster care based on the allegations of abuse, neglect, and poor living conditions. It was during this time further investigation revealed the 6-year-old Thompson had been killed sometime between May of 2002 and November 2005. The other children in the home had been coached to say their 6-year-old sister had been present in the home until the 6-year-old Thompson was reported as a runaway and what she had been wearing when she disappeared. The stepmother, Shiley Lowe, was never interviewed by police, and she refused to speak to them. In May 2006, a grand jury was convened to investigate the 6-year-old Erin Thompson's disappearance. In the same month, before being called before the grand jury, the 33-year-old Lowe suddenly died from a heart disease. The grand jury indicted the 6-year-old Thompson's father, Aaron Thompson. On September 28, 2009, Thompson's father, Aaron Thompson, was convicted of causing the death of his 6-year-old daughter and was sentenced to 114 years in prison. Aaron Thompson's body has not been recovered. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Aurora Police Department, Detective Connor, at 303-627-3100. Welcome to the state of Georgia. The Doe Network has 38 males and 61 females listed as being missing from the state of Georgia. Case 5. Welcome to Atlanta, Georgia. Missing male. It was on September 14, 1980 is when 10-year-old Darren Glass, a black male, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Atlanta, Georgia. On that day, the 10-year-old Glass was last seen at his home by 3 other children and his foster mother, Mrs. Smith. The 10-year-old Glass had lived with Smith before for 9 months in 1979. But this time, Darren Glass had only been at her residence less than 3 months before he disappeared. Glass's parents are both deceased. It was reported to the media. According to the foster mother Smith, the 10-year-old Glass had gone to see the Atlanta Braves baseball game at the Atlanta Stadium. Glass had plans to meet a local youth group from the church, but the 10-year-old Glass never arrived. Another newspaper report says that the 10-year-old Glass did return on the charter school bus to his foster home after 4 p.m. But Glass left his home shortly afterwards and did not return. All witnesses confirmed that the 10-year-old Glass was on the church bus. Shortly after Glass's disappearance, the foster mother, Smith, received calls where the person would call and hang up. It was unknown if the calls came from the 10-year-old Darren Glass. The truth is, 10-year-old Darren Glass may be a victim of the Atlanta child murderer Wayne Williams, who was arrested and eventually convicted of 2 deaths in the area. It is not known if Darren Glass was one of the victims of the Atlanta child murderer, but the 10-year-old Glass fits the overall profile of his other victims. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the FBI in Atlanta at 404-679-9000. Case 6. Welcome to Atlanta, Georgia. Missing female. It was on June 6, 1985, as when 3-year-old Alicia Smiley, a black female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Atlanta, Georgia. On that day around 1:45 p.m., the 3-year-old Smiley was last seen sitting on a bench inside the Omni Hotel. Alicia Smiley's aunt left her and her 4-year-old cousin unattended while she attempted to purchase wrestling tickets a short distance away. The 3-year-old Smiley may have wandered to a nearby McDonald's restaurant and was last seen by Omni employees asking for a cookie and asking about a bathroom. At the time of her disappearance, the 3-year-old Alicia Smiley had been living with her aunt and uncle for about 7 months. This arrangement was made because Smiley's parents were struggling to make it through college. Police and volunteers conducted several searches in the days after 3-year-old Smiley had vanished. They combed the school ground and desolate rail yards near the Omni Hotel, but found no clues. If you have any info concerning the disappearance of 3-year-old Alicia Smiley, please call the Atlanta Police Department investigator Gordon Payne at 404-546-5602. Let's take a pause for the cause, and when we return, I will profile 6 more missing person cases of children who never made it home. Be back in a moment. Welcome back to our MJ podcast. This series, Children Who Never Made It Home. Episode 7, Part 8, 12 Missing Children. Welcome to the state of Indiana. The DOE network has 70 males and 71 females listed as being missing from the state of Indiana. Case 7. Welcome to Brazil, Indiana. Missing male, It was on August 10th, 1957, is when 7-year-old William Earl Martin, a white male, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Brazil, Indiana. It was on that day in the early afternoon is when the 7-year-old Martin and his younger brother were playing on the front porch. The 7-year-old Martin got into an argument with his younger brother over a tricycle. The younger brother went inside to tell his 7-year-old sibling. When their mother came outside, the 7-year-old William Martin was gone. When questioned by police, a boarder at the Martin home stated after William Martin and his younger brother got into an argument over the tricycle incident, he walked the 7-year-old Martin down the driveway to look at a neighbor's dog. The boarder then left to wash his car and returned to the Martin home about 2 hours later. At the time the boarder became aware of the 7-year-old Martin's disappearance, the 7-year-old Martin's mother, the boarder told Martin's mother that he was driving away to wash the car. He saw the 7-year-old Martin about 2 blocks away from the house. The boarder took numerous polygraph tests and no charges were ever filed. The 7-year-old William Martin's parents insisted the boarder was not involved. The police searched nearby ponds and water-filled coal mine pits were drained. A carnival that had been in town during the weekend of his disappearance was tracked down and workers were interviewed. Numerous leads were investigated, but no sign of the 7-year-old William Martin was ever found. Foul play is suspected. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Brazil Police Department Chief Clint McQueen at 812-446-2211. Case 8. Welcome to Anderson, Indiana. Missing female. It was on September 5th, 1979, is when 13-year-old Melinda Karen Creech, a white female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Anderson, Indiana. The 13-year-old Creech had run away a few times as a child. After stealing motorcycles with another teenager, Creech was taken to an all-girls juvenile detention center called the Blake House in Anderson, Indiana. 2 months later, a detective went to the center to question the 13-year-old Creech about the burglary, but they were unable to locate her. At some point between dropping her off at the Blake House and being questioned by the police, the 13-year-old Creech had disappeared. In September 1979, the mother of Melinda Creech told her other children that the 13-year-old Melinda had run away from the Blake House. Later on, during the 1990s, their mother told the family that a decomposed body found on the East Coast was 13-year-old Melinda Creech. After their mother passed away in 2003, letters were found in her possession that informed the mother that her daughter, Melinda Creech's dental records did not match the body found on the East Coast. In 2004, 13-year-old Melinda Creech's siblings filed a missing persons report. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Madison County Sheriff's Office, Detective Brett Wright at 765-646-4017. Welcome to the state of Iowa. The Doe Network has 45 males and 29 females listed as being missing from the state of Iowa. Case 9. Welcome to Lynn County, Iowa. Missing male. It was on February 3rd, 1973, is when 11-year-old Guy Howard Heckle, a white male, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Lynn County, Iowa. It was on that day that 11-year-old Heckle was on a weekend group camping trip with a Boy Scout Troop 101. The Boy Scout troop camped at the Kiwanis cabins along Cedar River. It was about 9 p.m. that night is when the 11-year-old Heckle was last seen by his fellow scouts. The 11-year-old Heckle disappeared while playing a game of Capture the Flag. Troop members searched on their own for about 90 minutes before calling the sheriff's department. Regular and reserve deputies and Marion police and civil defense volunteers searched the reserve near Cedar River's backwaters that night. A searcher found Heckle's blue quilted nylon parka snagged on a log along the river's east bank the next day. Investigators found no sign of foul play. It is believed that the 11-year-old Heckle slipped into the icy Cedar River and drowned. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Des Moines Police Department at 515-283-4800. Case 10. Welcome to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Missing female. It was on June 3rd, 2001 is when 15-year-old Erin K. Postville, a white female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. On that day, about 8:45 p.m., the 15-year-old Postville was last seen by a friend who gave the 15-year-old Postville a ride to a friend's house for a sleepover. According to the older boy, they arrived at the friend's house, and when Erin Postville went to the door, no one was home. When the 15-year-old Postville turned to head back to the boy's truck is when a dark Chevrolet Cavalier with tinted windows pulled up. The boy didn't recognize the car, but Erin Postville acted as if she knew the people inside. Erin Postville and the occupants spoke briefly, and then the 15-year-old got into the car saying they would give her a ride. The 15-year-old Erin Postville has not been seen or heard from since. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Cedar Rapids Police Department, Detective DeVore, at 319-286-5350. Welcome to the state of Kentucky. The Doe Network has 51 males and 47 females listed as being missing from the state of Kentucky. Case 11. Welcome to Larks Lane, Kentucky. Missing male. It was on February 12, 1982, when 6-year-old Kelly Holland Jr., a white male, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Larks Lane, Kentucky. On that day, school had been canceled because of a heavy snow, and the 6-year-old Kelly Holland's mother fixed breakfast for him. After breakfast at around 11 a.m., the 6-year-old Holland went outside to play in the snow in the front yard. Holland's mother said she watched him several times as he played. The last time she looked outside the 6-year-old Harlan, she couldn't find him from the window view, so she decided to eat supper and wait for her son to return, but that didn't happen. The rescue squad was called out about midnight when 6-year-old Kelly Holland had not returned. Police searched for several days, thinking Holland may have wandered off and froze to death. There are also several abandoned mines in the area that have been searched through the years. 6-year-old Kelly Holloman has never been found. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Kentucky State Police at 606-435-6069. Case 12. Welcome to Radcliffe, Kentucky. Missing female. It was on October 26, 1989 is when 5-year-old Alexandria Christine Seliski, an Asian female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Radcliffe, Kentucky. On October 23, 1989 is when the 5-year-old Seliski was last seen playing outside of her family's home. The 5-year-old Seliski has never been seen or heard from since that date. On October 26, 1989, the 5-year-old Seliski's family filed a missing child report with police. In 1994, Seliski's father and stepmother was convicted of abusing the 5-year-old child as well as Seliski's abduction and murder. Seliski's stepsister testified that on October 23, 1989, she witnessed her mother place the 5-year-old Seliski inside of a plastic bag. This was 3 days before the family filed a missing child report on the missing 5-year-old Seliski. The stepsister testified that the 5-year-old Seliski was alive when she was placed in the bag. On October 24, 1989, the following morning, the stepmother discovered that the 5-year-old Seliski was deceased. Seliski's father allegedly buried his 5-year-old daughter's body later that morning. They were both sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. If you have any info concerning the disappearance of 5-year-old Alexandria Christine Seliski, please call the Radcliffe Police Department, Lieutenant Brian Davis, at 270-351-4470. I would like to thank our viewers and listeners for tuning in, for you all have been so kind. I have a quote for you all. The true secret of happiness lies in taking a genuine interest in all the details of daily life. William Morris. Always remember, folks, that if you ever get bored with nothing to do, well, take a walk deep into the woods. You might be surprised at what you might find. That's the end of our MJA podcast, this series, Children Who Never Made It Home. Episode 7, Part 8, 12 Missing Children. And we say to all of you, good night from the shed located in Hudson, Florida on the Gulf of Mexico.
happy.